Welcome to the Strong Life Coach podcast, where we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. Today, we're joined in the studio by Gabe Baker. Gabe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Derek. I'm glad to be here, man.
All right, I'm pumped up. I think you have a great story to tell, and I'm going to make sure people know who you are and know a little bit about your background. If I butcher anything about your bio, feel free to jump in and just correct me, okay? Sure. All right. So you graduated from Rice University with a bachelor's degree in environmental engineering. Then you were the captain of the Rice University football team. You had your master's degree in theology from Houston Graduate School of Theology. You were an American Ninja Warrior. You were on the Netflix show Ultimate Beastmaster, competing there. You are a cellist, and you've performed at weddings, conferences, and worship services. You were an engineer for 3 years, and now you do community organizing, which you've led international volunteer corps trips to serve local needs in various communities, as well as now you do a public policy and you're in a community engagement for Harris County Judge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have a big focus on social impact and Christian ministry.
Yeah.
So what don't you do?
That's pretty good. I live a pretty explorative life, just following my curiosities, as I tell people.
So I have a ton to ask you. I know even in the prep, we did not have time to go through all of it. Yeah. But we'll get through as much as we can.
All right.
But don't rush. Don't rush. So we'll have a good time together.
Okay.
Let me ask you. So it's noted here, you were the captain of the Rice University football team.
Yeah.
When did you find out you were going to be the captain of the football team?
And quick, I guess for people to know, my voice isn't typically sound like Batman right now. I have this groggly voice. I'm getting over a little sickness. But so yes, I played football at Rice from 2010 to 2014. I had a medical red shirt my second year playing. So basically I had some injuries, and if you're familiar with the idea of redshirting, typically the coaching staff will make decisions on if you're a young player, usually you'll redshirt your freshman year. Basically, they'll save your first year of playing of eligibility and use that year as a developmental year.
Got it.
Or you can do that as if you get injuries, they can kind of they'll call it a medical redshirt. Essentially, a medical redshirt my second year that left me 3 years of eligibility to play. My last year of eligibility is when I got the opportunity to be a captain on the team, and it was an in-team vote. So all my teammates voted on who they want to be the captain, and the coaches kind of confirm the vote there. So
which is pretty crazy. It's crazy. One, I would have no idea how it happened otherwise. Number one. But number two, it speaks about your impact with your peers, right? Because of course your coaches are involved all the way around, but then your peers being able to see you year after year, your hard work, your dedication, your focus in the craft of football, and going, hey, this is somebody we want to lead us. Yeah. It's a powerful thing. So what were your thoughts, feelings? Sure. What was the experience when you found out you were chosen?
Yeah, I mean, I was, excuse me as I crack my voice. I was extremely excited, obviously so honored to be given that title. But honestly, I kind of wasn't too fazed by it, and mainly because nothing changed for me. Like, what I mean by that is that everything that I did from a leadership standpoint to get me there, I just kept doing it. So it didn't elevate me to be like, oh, now I have to be more vocal, right? And inherently, I wasn't that much of a vocal leader, more just kind of a leader in action and character. But yeah, so it was kind of one of those things like, okay, I mean, I'm so grateful and honored. It does elevate the responsibility that one does carry if you have that title. Of course, you know, if you're going to be a spokesman on behalf of the team for whatever it is and different things like that, and being the leader. But again, the things that thankfully I was doing to get into that position, things didn't change. It was kind of business as usual.
That's real. You know, it's interesting because we talk about like there's a mystique when it comes to leadership. Like, I want to be a leader. Like, I can't wait till somebody gives me the title or gives me the role. Then at that point, then I'm going to become this dynamic, outspoken, uplifting person when that role comes and it hits me. But to your point is, most of the time when somebody is given a leadership role, it's acknowledging what they've already been doing.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about people out there who have that aspiration for a leadership position, role, title. Nothing wrong with the aspiration, but start doing it now. Like, don't wait to like become this magical person when you get a role, but begin making a difference right now, which I feel like you were doing. And that's the reason it was recognized. This is the guy, you know, one of the 2 guys on the entire team that we want as the captain.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think that philosophy, that principle is so valid, and it's definitely got me to where I was at the time, and has led me further. The concept of doing the things that the person that you want to be is doing.
Yes,
that's it. That's the key. So that's powerful stuff.
I love that. Okay, so you finished your 5th year redshirting at Rice.
Yeah,
and then what was the next step for you? You gonna stay in football or what?
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew I was in the position of like, hey, I can try to go to the NFL, or I can just quickly move on. I was like, hey, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. I'm going to give it all I got. So December, I guess, January 2015, I jumped into training for kind of NFL tryouts and stuff like that. And so that is where it led me there. So that spring was that, you know, huge, very ambiguous, transitory time of like, okay, all right, I've invested my whole life in playing football. College is over.
Right.
I'm going to figure out what I'm going to actually do in this next phase of my life. And so I spent about 3.5 or so months training hard for our NFL Pro Day, which is just the NFL tryout at our university, and did everything I could to put myself in position for that. For sure, I knew I wasn't going to get drafted in the typical NFL draft, but you know, I got connected with an agent, and they're like, yeah, you know, based on where you're at, numbers and everything else, you know, there's a chance that you can get an invite as a free agent to some NFL mini camps post that. And so that was the next stage where I was at the time. And it was interesting because it was exciting. It was extremely unknown of what I was possibly was going to step into.
Right.
So in my mind, I was like, God, I was praying to be surrendered to whatever answer God will give me. Whether it was like, hey, you get a shot or you don't. And so what happened, I didn't get any calls, nothing. It was just no calls, no nothing, no invites and anything else. I was pretty sad. And I was like, man, I wanted a shot at least, just to say, yeah, I had a shot. And if I didn't come through, then so be it. But you know, it was an answer to my prayer, and I took it. And thankfully I was really, and I, you know, thankful to put myself in a position to transition out of that. And I had a civil engineering job, roadway design, that I jumped right into the beginning of June, at that point. And
so let me ask you about the training.
Okay, sure.
So again, you've been training like virtually your whole life at this point. So training through high school, training through as you're on the college football team.
Yep.
And then was there significant changes to like NFL training?
Like not so much. I mean, you do a lot of position specific training, which you already do, you know, your entire time that you're playing football, whatever position you're at. Right. But then you do have skill specific training you do for the combine testing.
Got it.
That would be the only thing that changes, because literally at your pro day, or if you watch the NFL combine on the NFL Network, you'll see that they run the 40-yard dash, the vertical jump, the broad jump, bench press test, all these different things.
Sure.
So you're training specifically to do really well in those specific testing events.
Right.
So you do focus a lot on that, but overall you're just getting super strong, super flexible. You're doing, you're training 5-6 days. 6 days a week. Sunday's usually recovery day, and then you kind of do it over again. So,
wow. And how many hours a day were you putting in at that point? I mean,
sometimes we'll do like 2 a days in the sense, depending on what you're doing. You want to be smart with it. But yeah, you're training for at least about 2 hours a day. Every day. So you're cranking.
Right.
Because in my mind, I'm like, if I'm going to go all out at one point in my NFL football life, this is the point I need to do. And obviously you need to be doing that all the way leading up to get your position. But it's kind of going all in. So that's where I was at. It was exciting, man. But I put a lot of good work in, but it's what it was.
So then did it materialize with NFL? And then, what was next for you regarding athletics, competition? What was next?
So I had a really, really close friend of mine. He was in the obstacle courses, American Ninja Warrior game, training. He had been on the show a couple of times. And when I was training for this NFL Pro Day stuff, I was like, hey, man, if this falls through, I'm going to jump in and start training with you. So that's exactly what happened. So literally, I started my new career. And that same summer, I jumped in and started training and in these Ninja Warrior space, which is completely different.
Right.
Completely different.
Because you went this from, you said pure strength.
Yeah.
To this completely, transforming your regimen.
Because very little transfers from that kind of training for football to body weight sport like American Ninja Warrior obstacle course racing. Sure, you have your competitive spirit and your perseverance, all your discipline, perhaps, and even your overall athleticism and whatnot. But from the stance of what's really required to be successful in a show like American Ninja Warrior's, upper body, finger strength, different kind of balance, and just being able to maneuver your body in certain ways in the air and all this kind of stuff. You don't have to do that in football. You're not swinging and and
finger strength, right?
If you're blocking someone in football, but not hanging from your fingers, with your body weight. So again, completely different kind of training. So it definitely humbles you out very quickly. Yeah.
So then getting the experience. So was there an American Ninja Warrior event or what happened there or?
Sure. So thankfully in most cities, it seems like at this point, they have like gyms, actually. They call them ninja gyms. Basically, they have all the course testing or course training obstacles that simulate the experience you would have on the show if you got on, right? So you can get in there and train on all types of different things. A lot of people rock climb and stuff, so I got into doing that a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah, you kind of are able to simulate that kind of experience, like just like anything you would do, you would train for, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then was the main competition you were a part of in Houston? So you were still in Houston at this point?
Yeah. So I'm training in Houston. And so when you train for the show, you actually put in like a video application, which comes in at the end of the year. You send it to the show, right? You send it to the producers. And then if you're going to try to get on the show, you have to get a call that, hey, you're going to compete in this episode or you're going to compete at this city qualifier.
Got it.
And so
in
basically,
Houston.
This one ended up being in Oklahoma City.
Got it. Okay.
So they have regional qualifiers. And so based on where you're at, you'll be in a defined region. And then the producers can tell you, hey, you're going to compete here or whatever.
Gotcha.
So
your application video, it was good enough so the producers were going, hey, we're bringing you to the regional.
Yeah. And there's so many things about TV production that you learn from it. A lot of times when it comes to these shows, they want a story to tell. So even if you're not like the best athlete, American Ninja Warrior athlete, if you have a story to tell, a lot of times that'll open the door.
It's a difference maker.
It's a difference maker. So having the football background, different things, I think it was a good selling point in a sense. I'll take it. So it was great. So I got a call probably like February that I was going to be on the show, and then competed in I think it was like May when our city qualifier was.
Got it. So what was it like? What happened on American Ninja Warrior for you?
It was interesting. So one thing people don't know is like at what time they shoot the shows. So they actually shoot the shows overnight. They shoot it probably starting around like 8 or 9 p.m. when it gets really dark.
Whoa,
they shoot it all the way into the early morning. So
like early morning,
like 4 or 5 a.m.
Oh,
whenever they get the last, whatever time the last competitor runs the course. And sometimes it's longer, sometimes it could be a little shorter, but it always ends up going pretty early into the morning typically. So that was a situation for me. You kind of get the lineup, the number that, hey, I'm number this in the whole list of athletes, and there's 100+ athletes.
Wow, right.
And so I'm in Oklahoma City. It's late. Yeah, it's May. It's night. You're nervous. Like, oh man, this is what I've been waiting for, right? I've been training. About the show. I'm being on TV. And you're excited.
But you're staying up like potentially to late hour or early hours of the morning, late hours of the night, not knowing when you're going to compete. Like exactly.
Oh yeah, not at all. I mean, you kind of. You'll watch who's coming up based on where they're at in line. But again, you can't gauge how fast people are going to run through the course. People will, either complete the course and take the whole time or they'll fall on the first obstacle. Right. So you never know. So, so you're nervous and you're waiting and you're watching and you're also trying to, learn from the athletes who go who run the course. Oh yeah, I should do that.
Right.
Or you're getting more intimidated because someone who you know is better than you falls on obstacles. Oh dang, they on that obstacle. So you're gaining tips and lessons learned. So you're nervous and you're just waiting. And I knew I was kind of further down the line, but I didn't know I'd wait that long. So actually, what ended up happening, it was raining, it was cold, and so you're there the whole night. I had a couple friends from the football team who drove up to Oklahoma City to cheer me on. So I'm like, yeah.
That's right, because on the show you see a whole crowd. The crowd's waiting through this too.
No, the crowd's waiting there the whole night.
Oh my goodness.
And some people can cycle out if you're in the audience, but man, the crowd they got to hold strong through the night.
Wow.
I didn't get on the course until like 5 in the morning.
5 in the morning. So you're waiting the whole night. Are you like napping, sleeping? Is there an inside area?
So at this course, unfortunately, there's no inside area. It was just, it was unfortunate. I don't know what the arrangement was, but there wasn't. Either I didn't know where it was, and no one told me. As far as I know, there wasn't. So I was outside, and you're trying to find a place to, close your eyes and nap. But again, you're nervous.
And you're wondering what's going to be to my advantage to study these other people or to get some more rest.
Exactly. And you want to, I want to keep watching because I want to see what they did different. And so I can prepare myself better. So I probably, laid down, closed my eyes for about 30, 45 minutes.
Wow.
But the entire time I'm awake. And so if you imagine trying to compete on a very strenuous competition, physical competition, and you stay up all night, and you're nervous and you're trying to do everything to stay warm and all these different things. Right. And so I did all right. I didn't do good enough to make it. So they take the top 30 from the qualifier, city qualifier. They take the top 30 to the city finals. And they shoot that. I think, they shoot the city qualifier one night. And if you make the city finals, they shoot it the next night.
Got it.
So I was like number 31 or 32. So I just missed it. And so you make it based on, I guess, how well you place is based on how far you get in the the course, and how fast you get there. So based on my time and how far I went, that's where I landed. So I was just right on the cusp of making it to the city finals.
Got it. Now,
make it.
But even with that top 30, more than the top 30 could potentially have TV spots as far as come on the actual show. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So I didn't get shown in the episode that I ran the course in. Okay. So once you run the course, it's probably maybe a couple months until they show the episodes on TV. And that's another reality. I know we briefly talked about that, but that's another thing. So you don't know who's going to be shown in the episode that you compete in. Right.
Because it's me, right? I've competed, and then how would I know that my show's coming up? Yeah. Or my potential show?
Right. So, I guess in the schedule of when they're showing certain episodes. Like, okay, I know the LA qualifier is showing then, our regional qualifier is this date, Oklahoma City, right? And so within the calendar of dates.
Got it. Okay.
You have no idea who they're going to show on TV.
So nobody taps on your shoulder and says, hey, the producer or anybody from the network lets you know, hey, you're going to be on.
At least as far as I know.
Okay, right.
I think perhaps if you're like a veteran on the show and you're like, this highlight person, perhaps you're like, I know I'm going to be on the show. But even at that, they don't tell you how they're going to produce it. So sometimes it could be just a short snippet of your run on the course, or it could not be anything. So again, no one tells you until the show you won't know until the show comes out. Until you're watching it.
So it's like the live show. Yeah. So if I was like, hey, let me get my friends and family together to watch the show, hey, I might be on. And maybe. So what was it like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I didn't have like a viewing party or anything. I remember I was just at home and my parents like, hey, I think you never know, I might be on the show or not. But typically if you're going to do it, you'd probably, like I would have done it with other Houston Ninja athletes who compete on the show. Who kind of I knew had a better, a better chance of being shown, perhaps.
Mhm.
And even if they didn't get shown, you're still there in community and watching. But
Sure.
yeah, I just watched with my family and say, oh, okay, didn't get shown.
Got it. Well, then I mean, I think that's less awkward than having having everybody over and
it's
then
"Hey,
being
come
like,
over, we're gonna throw a party. And
everybody,
dang.
thanks for coming. I'm
like,
glad y'all showed support, but I didn't show up.
Trust me, I really ran the course, right? I know it didn't seem like it, but I did.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so in the course with the family, there's no like recording from on the crowd, like.
Oh, yeah, they don't want you to. Like people in the audience with their camera phones. People do, but you gotta sneak it.
Okay.
You gotta sneak. But people end up doing it. But then there's that non-disclosure thing. So when it comes to, they don't want you. If people do take a video, people are pretty good at not showing videos until the episode comes out. Like if you have a personal video of your course around the course, people do that.
Right.
But you gotta sneak it though.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So then you had American Ninja Warrior experience, and then so then tell me about the other show. So you have this the Ultimate Beastmaster. What? So tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, so it was an interesting connection to Ninja Warrior. So to what I came to find out is that these two shows, they're completely different networks. Obviously Netflix and NBC, different similar show concept, obstacle course reality show. But they have and they also had crossover producers, which I came to find out. And so basically what led me to the Netflix show was a producer pushing my name to the show. I didn't know, but they reached out to me and was like, hey, there's a show coming out on Netflix. Do you want to put an application for it? And I had no clue what it was. They said Sylvester Stallone was one of the executive producers.
That's a selling point.
Didn't get to meet him, sadly. I know. I was like, wait, Sylvester, where you at? But it was cool still. But I was like, yeah, I don't see why not. Absolutely. But the thing that got me the opportunity, to my understanding, was not being shown on American Ninja Warrior. So when my episode came out in American Ninja Warrior, I didn't get shown, right? You know, disappointed. It's like, okay, you got to move on. Maybe next year. But what that opened up was, I think there's a non-compete situation with those two shows.
Got it.
And so that opened up the opportunity for me to be, you know, a featured athlete, if you will, on this new show that's a competing show. Right. And so it was kind of like, oh, wow. I think I'm grateful to not have made it on Ninja Warrior at the time, because I would have not been exposed to this other incredible opportunity.
Like this closed door ended up being another open door for you.
It was another open door. And that's always, that's an incredible, just like, lesson learned, like life lesson.
Yes.
Like a lot of times you think something doesn't go the way you want it. It's like, oh man, this was not how it was supposed to go.
Sure.
But obviously hindsight is 2020. You can see how things align a little better. But it was I wasn't so disappointed. I was like, yeah, I gotta be on the show. It was great. And this was, to me, it was just either like a icing on the cake or a whole new cake in itself.
Sure.
I'm like, wow, I got another opportunity through this show. And it was really, really special.
Right. I think it's a great lesson. I think about the phrase like don't get bitter, get better, you know? And even when it didn't go perfectly when it comes to Netflix. And I just think about life in general.
Yeah.
You know, it's a principle of life. When things don't go my way, what do I do about it?
Yeah.
And am I looking for that next open door? Because there's probably something, right? Or open window, you know, or there's something else I'm meant to be, you know, be exposed to, that I just need to keep on waiting, keep on looking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of times you may not see the opportunity that it leads to because you may be so focused on missing something that just happened.
Right.
And so it is like, okay, what can you gather from something that didn't happen the way you may have not wanted it to go? And kind of, getting better, not bitter. I like that.
And then so then for Netflix, you were on the show.
I was on the show. So check it out. It's still there. Season 2, episode 2. That's the episode I'm primarily in. But it's a really, really cool show. It's obviously a Netflix original show. It features our season featured, season 2, obviously, as I mentioned, athletes from 6 different countries. It was US, Spain, France, India, China. Oh man, I'm blanking. India, France, Spain, China. Oh man, people are gonna kill me for missing that. India, US, India, France, Spain, China. Oh, whatever. Did I say Italy?
No.
Oh, in Italy.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Italy. You remembered Italy.
I know. But it was so cool. And so they, so it was a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes, over 100 athletes total. And so you're there. It's a small select few of people from each country. I think whether there's like 16 people from each country.
Wow.
And so it was a really, really cool experience. So they flew us out to LA for 2 weeks, and this was in late fall. Mid to late November 2016 when I did this. And you're there, and you kind of have to change up your sleeping schedule, because just like on Ninja Warrior, you film at night.
Right.
So you get out to the chorus around 8 or so when the sun starts to go down, or probably around, a little earlier than that. But once the sun starts to go down, and then once it's dark, you go out to the chorus.
Yes.
You get on there. So you're there, to the early morning, like 3 a.m. or so.
Wow. Okay. So you have to change it up. What's interesting, because after I found out you were on Ultimate Beastmaster, I went to go look it up, and I love the way it says it. It says elite athletes from the U.S. and other countries compete for cash prizes, individual glory, and national pride.
That's it. That's actually a really good description. And it's exactly right, because you're cheering your teammates on. We create our own chants and different things.
Sure.
For our fellow U.S. athletes, and it was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of this is happening in the athletic realm, but you're an engineer back in Houston.
Yeah.
So then, what do you tell can you put on Facebook that, hey, I'm on Ultimate Beastmaster, or
no?
And what do you tell your boss? Like, how do you just leave for 2 weeks?
Right. Kind of. Yeah. So with this show, again, with these shows, they always have you sign a non-disclosure agreement. So basically that you can't put public information that you're on the show, that you're competing on the show, until they let you know. It's from a marketing standpoint with the network and whatnot. So, so like, hey, Netflix is going to let you know when you can tell people that you're on the show.
Right.
But obviously I have to tell my boss that I'm leaving work for 2 weeks to go on this to compete. And other people, like I tell our minister at the church, and people that expect me to be somewhere, I have to tell them I'm leaving for 2 weeks.
Right.
So thankfully, I was able to do some remote work when I was a roadway design engineer. So I do some work when I was out there, and I had some PTO that I could leverage while I was there as well. So it worked out, and it was great. But it was one of those weird things. And another connected thing to this, keeping the lid on what's the word? Keeping things
disclosed.
Yeah, I was going to put it, keeping a cap on the bottle kind of thing. Is that we filmed the show in 2016. They didn't release the show until 2017, literally a year later. So you can't tell anyone you're on the show for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
It's really, really weird. And it's a true test of patience. Because it's like, wow, I went on this incredible experience that like literally changed my life in so many ways. And you have to get back to business as usual and act like nothing happened. And I didn't tell anyone the outcome either. I didn't tell my parents the outcome of the show.
Oh, okay.
And if you haven't seen the show, it's okay if you hadn't, but for the purposes of motivating you to perhaps watch my episode, I won't tell you how I did.
And okay, so it's season 2.
It's still there, season 2, episode 2.
Episode 2. Okay, I have not seen the show, but
okay, cool.
I'm committed to seeing the show.
Come on, watch. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool show.
Yes.
And you don't have to watch the whole season. You can just watch.
No, bro, you were on the show. I need to watch it.
You can watch it. All right. But yeah, so essentially, you gotta keep your mouth shut about you being in this really cool show for a whole year. And they actually kept bumping back the release date of the show. So I was like, oh yeah, by the beginning of the summer, you can tell people about it. It's like, oh no, we're gonna they bumped it to the end of the summer, and then they bumped it one more day in the fall, and they finally, it's like, okay, we're gonna release it here. And then it's like, oh, thankfully I can tell people now, right? And so the funny thing about that, it's like, oh, Gabe, that was great. You're on the show. It's like, dude, that was a whole year. My life is completely different now.
People are like, what's next for you athletically?
Next? Well, yeah, I've been doing that already. What's next has already been happening. It's what I'm doing currently. So that's like a funny thing about this show.
Right. You have like these series of like experiences that like nobody has, right? Like it's like
all the time.
So it's not just cellist.
Yeah.
Again, I read it in your bio, but it's like, wait, he plays the cello, and then I didn't even mention that you sing, and then you got the Rice football, then you have like American Ninja Warrior, then it's Ultimate Beastmaster. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find my lane, man. That's what I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah.
So speaking of lanes, we'll switch lanes.
Sure.
Talk about so you're an engineer.
Yeah.
3 years. And then decided on a change.
I did.
You went from being an engineer to policy advisor and community engagement specialist.
Yeah.
What inspired you to make that move?
So it started mainly during my undergrad at Rice. I got a really cool internship opportunity with the then Harris County judge. The Harris County judge is just the county executive. In Texas, they call the mayor of the counties, quote unquote, or the chief executive of the counties, county judges. So it's kind of a confusing formality, but it's not the traditional judge that you would think. But I got an intern for him. I was his intern. He became a mentor and a good friend of mine as well. And post that was actually, that was during my undergrad. And then when I told you about, I was training for the NFL, I also got to work part-time for him. During that springtime, because I had to try to find a way to make a living and everything. So he let me to come back in his office and work part-time there. Actually, I got to introduce him at the State of the County address, which was probably one of the coolest speaking opportunities I had.
Nice.
And I mean, it was just the audience I got to speak to was really, really great. And it was
who is that? And
sure.
for people who don't know, like,
sure. So it's similar to like, the State of the Union where the president comes up at the beginning of the year and say, hey, this is where the country's at.
Wow.
Same idea, but for the county.
For the county.
And Harris County, which is the county that Houston's in. It's the third largest county in the country.
Third largest county in the country, and you got a chance to introduce the leader of that county?
Yeah, the mayor of the county.
The mayor of the county.
The CEO of the county.
CEO of the county.
Right, and so I was working part-time. He was like, hey, Gabe, do you want to introduce me? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? It's casual.
Is that like up next is the mayor, or like what went into that?
No, yeah, so I actually had a 10-minute slot to speak.
Wow.
So that's a good amount of time to say, to share my piece. So I actually had like I was very proud of myself. I had a good speech. And I talked about, I can't remember offhand, but I kind of gave the 3 A's. I kind of gave, like almost like lesson points of like, hey, this is the vision of any organization and different things to make it kind of inspirational and personal as well. So it went really well.
Nice.
And so, yeah, you basically kind of set it up to lead into introducing the county judge.
Nice.
It was really cool. It was such a blessing, man. Such a blessing. And from that opportunity, that's actually what got me connected to the civil engineering firm that I worked for.
Got it.
I had a colleague in the judge's office whose brother worked for the firm, and then I guess the firm, I guess the office manager, the office leader of the firm that I worked for was at that state of the county, and then they reached out from there. It was really, really cool. So definitely kind of interesting to see how connections and opportunities come.
Oh, yes. Right.
Opportunities lead to opportunities.
Yes. Hey, that's the quote. That's the tweet right there.
Yeah, it is.
Opportunities lead to opportunities.
And so, yeah, that's so many lessons from that. One slight tangent. I'm going to get to how I got into my career now.
Sure.
But one thing I always try to never do is turn down a speaking opportunity.
Yes.
I try to never do it, especially because I know how much I'm going to grow from it.
Yes.
In the preparation stage and learning about myself, about whatever topic they want me to speak on. And then in the moment of delivering the message.
Yes.
There's so much to learn from. And then the post feedback.
Right. So my goodness. You're speaking my language right now.
It's a journey that you like you enter into for whatever it is. Like asked to lead a Bible talk, even if it's a small setting, or asked to give a speech or a sermon at whatever it is.
Right. I'm
like, yeah, if I can make it there, I'm going to make it there. I'm not gonna make it happen. So I've learned so much about that. So
I love it.
That was one of those great lessons. In addition, like opportunities lead to opportunities. Opportunity of speaking leads to further opportunities.
Yes. And let me hammer home that point to my audience real quick. So I literally have seen no other practice that has expanded my career, that expanded my influence, that has made me more known than deciding I will say yes to every speaking opportunity, no matter how afraid, scared, worried. But you captured that point so eloquently when you described it, the before, the prep, the delivery, the post.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to learn, and even like you learn so much from the mistakes you make as well.
Oh yeah.
You're going, hey, that punchline didn't exactly hit the way I thought. I thought people were gonna laugh.
Or something
there.
else hit that you didn't expect to hit.
Yes, that wasn't even in my notes. Let me take that down for another speech that I'm gonna do. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, man. So that was a really, really cool thing. And so what that led to my engineering career. So I worked there for about 3 years, and kind of maybe about like 6 months into being working as an engineer, I was like, man, this is not where I want to be long-term for sure. I quickly knew that, man, I can muscle out like this technical work, but it definitely wasn't where I think I naturally would excel and could just be my best self and professional self. And so I knew I wanted to get back into like the social impact, community engagement. I'd done a lot of community organizing outside of that and continually along the way. And so I was like, yeah, I want to get get my feet into that more full time. And so my plan in my mind was I was going to work into public affairs, like government relations work, public policy. And I was going to go to grad school initially. And so it was like, it was the spring. Oh no, it was the fall of 2017. It was like, okay, I'm going to make the shift. I started applying. Took my GRE. I'm going to apply to the grad schools. Or was it 2018? I'm tripping. No, it was 2017. It was. So all the while, the Harris County judge, shout out to Ed Emmett. He was my, who I interned with, who let me introduce him when I worked for him part-time. He was, serving as a great mentor and person I could rely on and get feedback on and say, hey, I want to get into this space that you're in, that I got exposed to. This is what I want to do. It's like, okay, I'll help you out with your, letters of recommendation, different things like that, which is awesome. Great relationship. I try to take advantage of. And then Hurricane Harvey hit late August 2017 in the greater Houston area. And post that, this is the spring, he literally probably the week that I was going to submit my application to go to grad school, he was like, hey, I'm going to open this position on my staff as my flood control policy advisor. Do you want it? I was like, absolutely. Wow. It was basically like, typically people post grad would want a position that he offered me. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, absolutely, the experience and getting into this exact field is more than I could ask for. And I was definitely felt well underqualified for the position, considering how big of an issue flooding is in the greater Houston area. It's the number one kind of natural disaster that we face regularly, and having the ability to make that high of an impact with the role that I had was really exciting and really challenging. I made a lot of mistakes that helped me learn really quickly. And definitely better off for it. And so that was kind of my step into where I am now. My, Harris County Judge Ed Emmett, he didn't get reelected in the 2018 midterm elections, which was last fall, which was a bit of a shocker for different realities. But so what that put me at the time, so this was last fall, was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to have a job now. In my mind, he was going to win the election, and I'd be there for another 4 years at least for his next term or whatever. I was like, okay, well, it seems like I might have to shift again. Not even a year into this position. But thankfully, with my new boss now, I transitioned through this administration shift and shifted roles to community engagement. So it's related to public policy, but different at the same time. And it's been a blessing in disguise, honestly, in the sense of kind of the space that it puts me in directly, that aligns a lot with where I know I want to be, of like directly being on the ground more with the people, understanding needs, advocating for whatever it needs to be there. So it's really challenging. It's a very creatively open role. It's been a great challenge to my discipline of like, okay, creating my own projects and proposing them, and some may stick, some may fall through, and just really trying to make things happen and trying to serve the community, man. It's exciting.
I love it. I mean, it speaks to your passion, right? What I know about you, you're a dreamer. You want to make a difference. You want to make impact.
Absolutely.
And then you get like this engineering opportunity, which is an incredible career by itself, right?
Huge, great career, great career.
But then you sensing that, you know, something wasn't, maybe the word is fulfilling.
Yeah.
It wasn't as fulfilling as it could be. And then you being in a position, you position yourself well so that you had the relationships to open up this opportunity for you. And then to be able to be in a position that has a lot more fulfillment to it.
Yeah.
You're connecting with a lot of people. You're helping with people with their needs, which is just a powerful thing. And then I think it's powerful. We know, I think we often talk about on the show about calling, you know, and people, you know, it's like this purpose with a divine touch, you know, and where's my calling? But it sounds like, you know, getting more closely in tune and aligned with your calling as far as that change from that engineering to what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely it. Like, I have no regrets from being an engineer at all. It definitely allowed me to learn so much more about myself that I wouldn't have been able to learn if I didn't go through that.
Sure.
And that firm that I worked with actually allowed me to work in the community as much as was possible. So it was like, I kind of had the best of both worlds is what I was asking for. They really let me explore kind of these really, you know, aspects that I was really, really interested in that I expressed to them. And one thing I did when I was trying to make my shift that really helped, along with from the connection standpoint, is that I met one guy at this city event, and he was a lawyer, and I was like, yeah, I think I might want to go to law school. I might want to try this out. He was like, yeah, let's shoot me an email. We'll get some time together, and I'll give you some advice.
Sure.
And he gave me some great advice. The one advice that stuck with me and that I went full in on was emailing 2 people every week that's in the proposed space that I want to be in.
Wow.
Just to get advice for questions like, hey, this is what I want to get into. Do you have any advice for me? It is something that, so I met with a good amount of people leading up to that were either lawyers or that were in the policy space or they work for a university or what it was.
Incredible tip.
And it was really, really good because he was like, yeah, and at the end of every other week, tell me who you reached out to. So he provided this accountability.
Yes.
And this guy, his name was Andy, awesome guy. I got to actually see how he's doing. It's been a while since I reached out to him. But literally that was a great stepping stone to me being like, okay, should I work in a political campaign to get my foot into it? Because I was going to do that. So I got these really cool connections of just like, these are some ways that you can get a foot into understanding, hey, is this a space I want to get into? Just shooting a bunch of emails like every week. I would just do random Google searches like, okay, who's at Rice University that's working in public policy?
Wow.
And I would email them, hey, professor, I work for this. I'm interested in getting in this space. Can we grab coffee, or do you have any advice for me? And I grabbed coffee with a good amount of people. So that was one thing. I love that.
I'm using that. I'm using that one. Yeah. Yes.
It was really valuable. And I try to keep that in mind and for different things I'm trying to learn about or get more information about and shit too. Because there's so many people that have knowledge about the things that you want to do.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So let me ask you, so currently dating, not dating, with a girlfriend?
Currently not dating.
Okay.
Currently not dating.
Not dating. So, and I want to know about the process, because I think, you know, you have all these accolades on that portfolio, right?
Sure.
So then when you're getting to know, you know, when you're getting to know a woman, right, and you're getting to know, and you're potentially sharing about you, how do you go about sharing or not sharing some of this like expansive portfolio you have athletically, or even with you know, policy, or is it government? Is it considered government?
Yeah, I work for the government.
So it's government, you know, the engineer, the Rice football, the captain. Like, how much do you voluntarily, you know, bring about, and how much do you just kind of, do you hide, or like, you know, tell me what is your, I don't know if it's a process is the right word for it. Yeah. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I won't really get into the nitty gritty of things very like outright. It's interesting. I guess I'll try to gauge what they may know about me already.
Okay.
And then I'll just feed off of them. So typically if they say, hey, Gabe, you know, tell me about yourself, where you're from. Hey, I'll give the basic biography of like, yeah, I'm from here. This is where I live. You know, I'm a Christian. I do this stuff. This is what I work for now. And then, you know, the conversation goes to wherever it is. But I never will be like, oh, yeah, I was on this TV show. And,
Ultimate Beastmaster.
Right. People call me the Ultimate Beastmaster. No, I've never done that. I think usually it's, you know, I do share my life pretty purposefully, intently on social media and stuff. And so people may, learn about me there. And then if they bring up that, it's like, oh, I heard you on this show. And then I'll share about it. Right. So unless prompted, I really won't go into like some of these details of some of the things I do. Like I'll give like, yeah, I love music. I like to sing. I play some instruments but I'll never, honestly, it's just kind of where I'm at. And I'm pretty content with doing it. I'm not trying to hide.
Not like, hey, I played the cello. I performed at weddings, conferences, and worship services,
Right. I'm not going to pull out my CV and be like, hey, this is my credentials.
Let me give you an autograph.
Yeah, let me give you an autograph. Beat you to it.
Right.
I know what you're going to ask. Let me write it for you already.
So then, but now, if you don't lead with that, okay, clearly.
Yeah.
Now, so you have friends of, different guys, and sometimes our guy friends can hype us up, can hype you up and maybe even openly share your accolades for you. So how does that influence even like your social life or even in your relationships with women? How does that?
Yeah, well, I think perhaps it may give some more opportunities to meet some women that I may not normally do. I don't know. But yeah, people will advocate for me on my behalf, say, oh, you got to meet this guy, whatever. And yeah, I really don't think much of it, to be honest. I think whoever introduces me to someone else, it is what it is. And you kind of meet them, create a relationship, and just be friends with whoever comes my way. I don't know.
And then so they're hyping you when you're around. Of course, you hear it, but then sometimes they hyping you up when you're not around, and they're like, oh, like
right.
So how do you find out that somebody hyped you up, or how does that come about?
It just comes up in conversation.
Because the lady may not go, hey, this is what I know about you up front. She may not lead with it either. You know?
No, yeah, that's true. I think it'll eventually may come out. It's like, oh, hey, my friend told me about this that you did. And like, oh, okay, yeah. Then I'll get into whatever. Like that.
Sure, okay.
But yeah, again, it does get kind of awkward sometimes, or like, oh, how do you know that? Oh yeah, I saw this, or they told me about this. But
right.
I think it's kind of what it is when if you have friends that they want to be a matchmaker for you or something. Right,
right.
But yeah, I have some incredible friends and some incredible friends who are like the best hype people for me.
Right.
And, yeah. So I fully embrace it.
I know our mutual friend Victor.
Yes.
Come
on, Vic.
Shout
out to Vic.
I think you and I were together at a conference in July. I think even how the podcast kind of materialized. You being here.
Yeah.
He leaned over to me and said, hey, you got to get Gabe Baker on the podcast because he's like golden child Joseph from the book of Genesis.
I love Victor
favor
so much,
overflowing in his life. That might be the name of this podcast, by the way.
Ooh, I like that. I love alliteration.
Right.
No, yeah, man. Victor is definitely an awesome friend and brother in the faith in me. And he puts a smile on my face every time I see him, and he makes me feel awkward in the best way possible. I'm just hyping me up. So shout out to Victor.
So then, one more question about the ladies.
Okay.
So then, everything you've done, your portfolio, if you will. So does that mean like standards are sky high, or like
I guess you could say so, but not for this, not for the purpose of like boxing myself into only certain people. I think I've just become, I've gotten to a decent point. I feel like a pretty good point, and there's so much room to grow, of knowing a lot more about myself emotionally and how I ought to be within a connection with someone before investing myself further. So like, ideally, everyone has, I want this person to be like this, I want to be like this. In my mind, it's hard to get around those things. And I try not to stick to them. But then there's those aspects of like, I want someone that is compatible with kind of my career aspirations, or obviously where I am in my faith.
Sure.
So there are those kind of inherent aspects of want to be, physically attracted to them, all these different these things. But yeah, so I guess it does raise the stakes, I guess, through my experiences with the relationships I have been in. But it is for the reason of like, I want to be purposeful with the people I commit my life to.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like, right? Like you want to make a big difference.
Yeah.
And then the phrase that I'm using is not the right phrase.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say this phrase. So you don't want dead weight.
No, that's
right.
Yeah,
you don't want somebody. You don't want somebody holding you back. You want somebody like going in the same direction. We're gonna do great things together in the community, for our faith, just to help as many people as we can.
Oh yeah, I think you want to have someone that makes you better. That's absolutely it.
Yes.
You want someone compatible, someone that's gonna challenge you, and someone that's that really complements everything that you are or that you're not. And so that's exactly where at least my perspective is, like what I look for, and like someone that's a leader, someone that's all these things that are like that. I'm someone that I'm truly impressed with.
Yes.
Like when I see them, like, wow, I'm just impressed by you, like from a faith standpoint, from an ambition standpoint, for whatever it is. It doesn't have to be particular pockets, but and there's just also a different, maybe an indescribable connection you kind of have to certain people too.
Yes. Yeah. So given all of that, how do you stay grounded with all this? Because I think what I sense in you in our interactions, even now in the podcast, it's not so much like I don't sense arrogance. I don't sense boasting or like being full of yourself. Although some people might look at you and go, well, you have reason to be, so what helps you stay grounded?
Gratitude to God, without question. And what I mean by that, obviously I'm talking about my faith, referring to it a lot, and I could get more detail with it, but essentially my perspective has deeply really built itself on the perspective that I have more, how should I put it? Everything that I have is more than I deserve.
Yes.
Like I think about it all the time. First of all, I'm always motivated by the brevity of life. So how short life is gives me so much energy.
Yes.
And gives me a lot of perspective on what I'm investing my life in. But also, like, it can be taken away in a split second.
Yes.
Is extremely humbling and so gratifying to me. Like, wow, I don't deserve it at all. Like I could have been born in a different century, in a different country with not even a fraction of the blessings and different things I do have, financially, resources, relationships. Like literally there's so much out of my control that it keeps me grounded. Like, man, I don't deserve anything.
Wow.
And that's a powerful way to put it. But that's kind of how I feel a lot of times. Like, man, I literally could have been anywhere else, but God has put me where I am for a reason. And I think that aspect of knowing that God has purposed me with all the things I do have does ground me to, like, okay, how am I taking advantage of the privilege and resources and agency to lift those up who have less, and help focus people in the right direction.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I think that overflows from you. Your commitment to helping people. It's like, okay, just because I have more doesn't mean I'm trying to, like, use every opportunity I have to elevate me. But it's, can I help the people around me? Because I understand, that the opportunities I have, they don't come to everyone. And let me have gratitude, and let me be gracious in everything that's in my life. That's what I sense from you, which is such a powerful thing. I appreciate your example in that area.
Oh, thanks, Jay.
So I know we're going to have to wrap it up, but I want to ask you one more question. Cool. So all these outstanding achievements, accolades, overflowing favor, right? What's the most normal part of your life?
I'm a very normal person, Derek. I really am. There's so many things. Where do I start? There's a couple of things that come to mind immediately. I love eating breakfast for dinner. And then I love following kind of what's the top thing when it comes to TV movies. So obviously my favorite show is The Office.
There we go.
I love following any superhero movie or TV show. So the MCU, I'm all over the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, all the DC movies, which even though the DC movies, the Superman movies and whatnot aren't doing very well, I'm a huge fan still, obviously. So keeping up with those, when The Walking Dead comes back into season this fall, I'm gonna be on it.
Yes.
So man, I love, using, decompressing, watching those shows, kind of keeping up to date with pop culture in a sense.
There we go.
Whatever it is. I think that it's an interesting launching point to conversations to people, like connections, like, oh yeah, I don't know how to connect to you, but I think we like the same show. Sometimes that's my last resort,
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that those are two things that come to mind of my normalness. But I'm a very normal person.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, good. We're good.
Yeah.
Well, to bring it in for a landing here, we're on the Strong Life Coach podcast here with Gabe Baker. Of course, on this podcast, we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. And if you're tuning in, be sure to like the podcast, rate it, give it that 5-star rating on iTunes, comment on it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.